It's very true that most businesses fail. Very few get to the magic million of revenue, and only a few make it past their 10-year anniversary. In fact, only 5% get to 10 years old. So why is it so devilishly difficult for businesses to succeed? Well, it all comes down to understanding the basics of business management. And in this video, I'm going to use all the strategies and tactics that I use in my own businesses that employ over 2,000 people and do tens of millions of revenue each and every single year. I've had to get good at business management, and I want to share all those strategies with you. There's going to be some hard truths in this video. There's going to be some things that really shine a light on just how difficult entrepreneurship is. One of the first things to understand is this: leaders usually eat last. And it's a philosophy that super successful entrepreneurs and business owners get. They get delayed gratification. And that means you need to invest into management. And that's really the first stage of basics of business management. Because what happens is people start a business or they're in business and they want to pay themselves first. But delayed gratification through a process of success, which I call E plus M equals S, is how you win in business. And this stands for entrepreneurship plus management equals success. I always like caveating this to a story about running a school. The entrepreneur is the head teacher. The management is the teacher. When you're running a school, you need the teachers to do the day-to-day, to look after the kids. But those teachers are attracted to a really good head teacher and they have a choice of where they want to go and work. So you need to become the best version of you. In fact, you need to work out what you've got to do, what you've got to become to get all the things you want to have. So who have you got to become? What have you got to do to have all the things that you want to have? Well, you want to become an amazing entrepreneur that works on themselves, that does self-development, so that you attract the very best management to come and work for your business. And understanding the difference between leadership, the entrepreneurship side, and management is a crude differentiator that just most entrepreneurs and business owners don't get. I'm attracted to brilliant management. I buy in other people's 10,000 hours of practice that have opposing skill sets to me. Now, that sounds very obvious. The problem is when you start a business or you're in business, that means you might be paying others more than you. When you've got a business, you get paid twice. You get paid through income, maybe a salary, or through cash flow. But the real wealth is made on the balance sheet value of the business. And this could be assets the business builds up, goodwill, cash in the bank, value of business, intellectual property right. Because when you sell the business, this is the most tax efficient way of generating wealth. Income or cash flow is taxed so much through PAYE or through any turnover taxes the government wants to put onto you. At the moment, at the time of recording, your balance sheet value is always growing and you're not taxed on that until you realize it through a company sale. One of the best things, one of the best business management tips that I've got is you're always building a business to sell, even if you have no intention of selling it, because that's a disciplined philosophy. That discipline will just help you build a much better business. So yes, we want to worry about the profit and loss and the income, the generation of the business, but actually that's one way of getting paid. The other way of getting paid is through capital appreciation on the value of the asset that you're building your business. Similarly to property, you get paid from rent, but then actually one day the value of the property is increasing and you'll also get paid on that if you realize its value. So entrepreneurship plus management equals success. Great businesses know they must employ and must invest in great management to grow the business in terms of systems and processes. Now, we spoke about E plus M equals S there, and that's entrepreneurship plus management equals success. But it goes one step further than that, because the management of the business need to look after people. And how do we have a system and process that really gets people to buy into the vision, mission, and culture of the business? The vision, mission, and culture. So this is the long-term thinking. What does the business look like in 10 years' time? What does the business look like when it's finished? What's the big goal of the business? Where do we want to be in 100 years' time? Where do we want to be for the next generation? That's the vision of the business. So a really good vision is we want to be the world's leading technology company that changes the world. That vision, that big statement needs to be managed. And that's the mission. So how are we going to do that? What are we going to do this next month, next quarter, this year to make sure that we're aligning to our vision goals. And then lastly, the culture. How are we going to do this? What's the way in which we're going to carry out our mission? What's the way that we're going to carry out our vision? And the best way of describing this is through wars. And I call this war planning v battle planning. So our war plan v our battle plan. So the war, World War One. Let's talk about World War One. World War One, there really wasn't any vision. No one knew why they were doing it. It was such a huge tragedy. People were fighting battle after battle after battle with no real war plan. And that's why it was a complete and utter failure, the biggest tragedy war of the modern history. But actually, if you look at World War II, had a much better vision. World War II was all about getting rid of a tyrant with a funny moustache. And that was our big vision. That was our war plan. So when we're fighting our battles because we have a war plan, actually we've got much better culture, much better vision, much better energy to deliver on the war plan. Now, what I find with lots of entrepreneurs is they've got lots of battle plans, but with no real war plan. And if you don't have the war plan, the battles can get very tiring. Like, oh, it's another VAT return. Oh, it's another payroll. We're opening up today. Things are really tough. But actually, you don't know what the end goal is. And so great management is about thinking. I'm going to write this down because this is a powerful set of words, gang. Thinking with the end in mind. Because if you can think with the end in mind, and you know what the final destination is, you can decide what battles to plan so that your management is so much more effective. Most people just get up and do the same day in, day out with no real vision. That's why you need vision, mission, and culture. And culture is really important because every business, every organization has a culture. It's just whether it's the one that you want. Now, when I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners, there's some things that they should be looking at. They should be looking at innovation, because if you don't innovate, you evaporate. And understanding that is one of the top parts of business management. Marketing. You've got to bring people into your business. Culture, here it is. This is the culture. If your culture's great, you usually get more sales. People are sticky in the business, and then you've got less recruitment problems, and everyone can use community practice to tell people how things are done here. And then lastly, recruitment. I'm going to talk about recruitment at the end a little bit, but actually it's far better to just recruit really good people, buy in your weaknesses, people that you recruit on attitude over skill set, because that's one of the secrets that I've found about managing all my businesses. Sometimes I've fallen in love with a great CV and I've just thought, oh, if I could bring that skill set into my business, everything's going to be better, but they could have the wrong attitude and really, really piss off all of the rest of the team. So you need to be, as a leader of a business, focusing on innovation, marketing, culture and recruitment of the best possible management that has these attitudes so that you can manage the business effectively. But let's talk about you, the owner, the leader, the decision maker of the business. And this is a good little tip that I've got for business owners. Think about what's your hourly rate. Some people are more effective than others. And usually when an entrepreneur starts in business, they go out there and get some business. They create stuff from nothing. They're bootstrapped. They make the impossible happen. But then they move into doing tasks that are possible. And that's a real crying shame, because if you go out there and get a customer and you build something from scratch, you definitely fall into the impossible camp. Not many people can do that. But then they go into operations and start managing the business. And this is a complete and utter crock of. So think about your hourly rate. Is your hourly rate, are you worth £20 an hour? Are you worth £10 an hour? Are you worth £500 an hour? Or are you worth £50,000 an hour? And actually, a better question is, what level of task are you doing in your business? Are you doing £10, £20 an hour tasks? Or are you doing £500 or £50,000 an hour tasks? Understanding in your mind as a philosophy of what your hourly rate is, you focus on doing the impossible and let your management do the possible. Because here's the thing, good management don't need you, the entrepreneur, changing it all the time. They want to work to systems and processes. They want to look after the systems and processes, and you go out there and grow the business so they can operate the business. So you're growing the business, they're operating the business. And that really is the foundations of how I run all my businesses. Lots of people say, James, how do you do all these businesses? Well, I don't. I actually don't manage any of my businesses. I've never locked up, closed up, done a VAT return, run a payroll. I've never done any banking, produced any management accounts. I employ people and let them manage the business, and I leave them free to make mistakes. Then if they do make mistakes, I pull them up on it. And yeah, we might make some mistakes along the way, but actually from the macro point of view, we move much further forward. That's a really good point as well. You've got macro tasks in a business and you've got micro tasks in a business. I, the entrepreneur, focus on the macro tasks and I let management focus on the micro tasks. Bit like E plus M equals S, entrepreneurs doing the macro, management doing the micro. I only have faith to go and do macro tasks like buy another business or buy a big property or raise £10 million because I know that I've got brilliant management looking after my team, doing the HR, doing the P&Ls, banking the money, doing the bookkeeping. When you try and do macro and micro tasks, it just leads to burnout. You cannot manage a business effectively like that. Now, earlier on in the video, we talked about the 4 things that I think entrepreneurs should be focusing on: innovation, marketing, culture, and recruitment, recruiting the best talent for your business. Let's focus now on that C&R part, culture and recruitment. To manage your business the most effectively is to remove these people, mood hoovers, or remove toxic people. Remove people that are not right for your team. Now, if you grow a business, you're going to make some mistakes. You're just going to make some mistakes. Now, you have to live by the business management philosophy 101, which is this. If you can't change the people, you must change the people, because bad people, they could be in the wrong place. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but they could be in the wrong job and they shouldn't be working for you. They can spread like a cancer over your good people. And they can make good people average people and great people good people. And then you remove that bad apple and you just see the team improve effectively so much more. The culture you create is the most important part of business management. And recruiting the very best people makes that all easier. If you go to a great school or the army or the fire service, you'll see great culture and great recruitment, good training, brilliant systems and processes, and that culture just breeds more and more of it. Really important that you focus on that. Remove the mood hoovers, remove all the noise, remove all the toxic people, and you find you've got a much better managed business. When I was starting out in business, there was a little phrase that everyone used to say: the fastest way to becoming a millionaire is to buy a McDonald's franchise. It was a coin phrase that was pushed around all the time. Why is that? Because McDonald's have fantastic systems and processes. And I reckon lots of you would have been clicking on this video thinking that I was just going to talk about systems and processes, and they are so important. But actually all the other stuff I think comes first, because if you've got useless people that are toxic and mood hoovers and you're rubbish, it doesn't matter about the systems and processes, but you do need great systems and processes. The business should run under a system. Think about McDonald's. In essence, they're doing something that's so incredibly low barrier to entry. The thing shouldn't be the biggest restaurant chain in the world. No. All they're doing is burgers and fries and milkshake. And there is 10 a penny around the world, people that sell that food, that style of food. But because of their systems, because of their processes, and obviously a brand that's been built up over decades, they win the day. And people want to buy into that franchise, which by the way costs many millions of pounds to get hold of one, and they operate systems and processes that are super effective in building a commercially profitable enterprise. And that really is what builds a brilliant business. You're building a commercially profitable enterprise that works without you in it. Well, how do you have a commercially profitable enterprise that works without you in it? On the strength of the management that operate the right systems and processes. Everything has to be written down. Everything has to be documented, and you need to have a system that reviews and audits, that refreshes and reminds your team on exactly the systems and processes that you need. Why do schools have assemblies? Why do armies have roll calls? Why do religions get everyone to meet up on a Sunday morning to re-emphasize the culture, the missions, the systems and the processes of whatever it is they're doing? If you're not training your team, you're not gaining from your team. I think good companies like McDonald's have brilliant systems and processes to retrain their teams. You know, when you're getting in an aeroplane with a pilot, you want him to follow the systems and processes. You don't want him sitting there going, hey, what does this button do? I've never pressed it before. No, thank you. Follow the systems and processes. And you need to do that in your team. Document everything, gang. And, build your business like it's a franchise so that if someone walks into it blind, they can follow the manual like a big set of instructions to run your business. If it's not written down, you're missing out. This little fella, work from home, not a fan of it. Look, I always say to people, do you want your kids to be taught from home on Zoom? The answer is no, you blooming don't. You need to build a culture and a team. A lot of people say, people waste so much time by having water cooler chats or sitting in the coffee room. But actually that builds culture, that builds community. And you can get a lot of things solved by being in people's presence. We're tribal people and we need to be working together. So I'm not a fan of working from home. Every now and then I allow it, and I just hate that we haven't got all of our people together because we're all spread over the country and we're international as well. But whenever possible, I like people to work together. It absolutely does make a difference. The only people that don't like it, in my opinion, is people that want to work from home because they've got other commitments in their life. But for the business, it is not effective. Build communities, build culture, get to know your team, get to help them, support them emotionally as well. If every now and then they need to work from home, then that's fine. I'll tell you another thing that's a real oxymoron to this saying. With me, my senior people, they don't have to tell me where they are. If they want the day off, have the day off. If they want to go on an extra few holiday days, I don't care. They don't tell me when they're on holiday, what time they're coming in or what time they're leaving. We manage people on output, not input, but I want to visibly see them. And that's why I can't stand working from home. I think it's really counterproductive. Hit the comments. I know loads of you are going to disagree with me. I can't wait for the fight in the comments, gang. Right, the next thing is OST. I talked about war plans, battle plans, but I've got a little phrase that I've always used in business, and it's objective, strategies, and tactics, which really rounds all this up. The objective is the vision for the business, and this must stay on point. One of the biggest ways of mucking up a business, and you see this a lot in local government because it changes every 4 or 5 years, every time they have an election, the objectives change. There's no long continuity. So you need to keep your objectives on point, but your strategies and tactics can change to meet the objective. Let's have an example here. You've got a hotel, I've got a hotel, and the objective is to turn this into a £3 million revenue business that makes 700k profit per year. And you're running the hotel, but all of a sudden, less people stop coming for tourism, and they're starting to build more businesses over here. So you might go, well, actually, let's change our strategies and tactics because we're getting less tourism in the town to start attracting these businesses, and we'll do functions, and we'll do day delegate rates, and we'll do stuff that attracts businesses. Because if you can say to everyone, look, our objective stays on point. We want to be a £3 million revenue business that makes 700k profit, but actually we're not sure if the strategies and tactics need to change. Back to that original point. This is the war plan. These are the battle plans. The battle plans sometimes need to change, but as long as we know what war we're wanting to fight. When you're building teams, look at your weaknesses and try and buy in your weaknesses. And if you look at the things that I've done in my career, I think about this. Who, not how. I'm going to tell you a little story. I went to look at a business the other day. And I was walking around, they had no management, which is usually a business that I wouldn't buy. For me, I want to buy big businesses that are doing at least 1 million plus in revenue, and actually a lot bigger than that, with a great management team. So I just bought Camp Beaumont, which is a big childcare business that operates all around the world. 10 million turnover business with a brilliant management team. That means that I can just finesse them, help them, coach the management team to be better. So when I was buying that business, I know how to run a business in Singapore, Malaysia, and all of these holiday camp businesses. Yes, I had day nursery businesses. Yes, there were synergies, but I was thinking, who can I get to run this business out of my existing team? But the good news here was the who were already in place. So I didn't need to work out how to run the business. Who, not how. So when I'm running businesses, I never run them, actually. I buy them, I lead them, but I think about who can I get to run them, not how can I get to run them. Now, I've spoke about companies that I've bought over the years, but actually, one of the best things that I'd done recently was I had an ice cream company called the Rossi Ice Cream Company. And when I bought it, it was a smaller business, but I just really wanted to buy it. I had a good philosophy or good vision that I could turn this business around, but had no management, had lack of sales. I tried to artificially put money into the business. How did I put money into business? Well, some of my own cash, but I also said, right, your ice cream is going to go into all of my venues. And actually, I was buying £1 million and a half quid's worth of food from a food services company. I would then give all of that to Rossi, and Rossi could distribute my food. We wasn't very good at it. We didn't have the management. And I, a proper entrepreneur, not a proper manager, went in and started running the business, trying to work it all out. And then I just thought, you know what? Give up. I'll go and buy a food services company. And I found one for sale called Cafe Deli Wholesale. Now, this was a 10 million revenue business when I bought it. I gave Rossi all of that work, and then I could use their management because they had the who. I didn't need to work out how to do it. I had their 10,000 hours of practice, their 30 decades of trading. So if you're looking at business right now and you want to get into a new sector, consider this. Buy some companies that have great management. And you know, I've always said this on the pod and on my videos and on this YouTube channel, that actually, if you look at what private equity and venture capitalists and investors do, they're investing into management first, then they look at the profitability. Because you can have a unicorn year that makes loads of money, but who are the management team that are making that money? And I've learned that in business. So that's why I like buying companies. I've taught loads of people how to buy companies. And the big thing is to buy companies that have got excellent management team, because then you can leverage that management team probably into your existing businesses. And I've done that, rinsed and repeated that philosophy so many times. And buying companies is easier than ever. It's so much easier to buy a company than to start a company or grow a company. In fact, buying an existing business that's over 20 years old has something like a 600% higher success rate than starting a company. So if you've started a business and you want to grow it, keep on growing it, brilliant, but consider buying some companies. Maybe you'd like to join me when I tell you how to buy companies by coming to my Buying Businesses Masterclass. All the details of how you can come along to that are on my website, jamessinclair.net. Maybe I can help you buy a few companies and do it as frugally as possible. You don't need loads of money to buy companies. I've bought £1 million plus businesses for next to nothing because people don't want to run them anymore, and it's a retirement sale, and I've been able to pay over a period of time. And there's many other ways to skin the cat on buying a company. Don't be under the illusion that you need to have millions of pounds in the bank account. It's very easy, and I can't wait to show you how. There's loads of videos on the channel as well. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments if you like this video or if you've got any other ideas that you found to effectively manage your business. Can't wait to read them. See you in the next one. Bonjour.